Today on Parts Hold, we are going to address the topic of whether or not we will still need parts managers in the future. We have a great discussion about that. I think you might be surprised at some of the suggestions that we come up with, and you're going to want to probably take some notes on this one too. We're going to talk about some exciting things happening in the Chris Collins world and universe, and much, much more today on Parts Hold.
We'll be right back.
All right, Cliff, what is this?
Oh, that is the new leadership book written by Chris Collins.
That is the case to said leadership book. This, well, it's not a book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is a 2-book piece, and there might be even more than that in there. I don't know. You have to order it to find out. But you have a limited edition first run autographed copy, I believe.
I do.
And
individualized
and what do you think of that?
Autograph copy.
Yes. And what do you think of that? Personalized. It's personalized.
Yeah, it's very personalized. It's very funny what Chris wrote to me. Very humorous.
Was it about you being attractive?
Yes.
I had a feeling.
Exactly what it was about. But man, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's really hard to communicate, because if you haven't watched, those of you that listening, if you haven't watched the video that's it's on Facebook, it's on the Syndicate Library, I think it is on the YouTube.
Syndicate X Library.
Yeah, is that video on there where it introduces the book?
Yes.
The video. If you haven't watched that, it's worth going and looking that up and watching that video. But I don't know that it does it justice, because you see it in its form when people are looking at it. But once you kind of hold it, it takes on a different kind of context for the reader. I didn't know what to think. I just honestly didn't know what to expect. It's so well written and so thoughtfully laid out that you want to keep reading portions of it. And it's just, I know we say it all the time, and I don't want it to become cliche, and I don't want it to be overstated, but it's definitely a journey. Like, it's definitely an experience.
Yeah, and it's really cool that you and I are fortunate to get a front row seat to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that this whole thing, like, there's such a need for leadership. I mean, in government, in society, in business, there's just it's failure on so many levels, and this book starts the conversation on how to fix it.
Well, I think the thing that we don't realize is what I'm experiencing on my own, and having been a part of this company for as long as I have, and all the conversations that we've had about it, we've kind of gotten it all wrong about leadership anyway.
Yeah, forever we've been doing it wrong.
Yeah. So it's exciting to be front row seat, like you stated, and be a part of it. Like, it's super fun, and the book's fantastic. It's great.
Cool. Yeah, so we've got a lot going on right now at the Chris Collins Syndicate X Library, which is our headquarters here in Los Angeles. So over the next couple of months, like, there's a lot of things happening. So a companion to, or let's just say the next level, once you've gotten the book, the next thing to do naturally is, after you've kind of absorbed the information, is to attend the I Am Leader workshop. And that is essentially helping you to put in to use all the stuff and things that you learned out of the book. So I kind of look at it as on the automotive side, we have a masterclass, and that is the culmination of all the stuff that we have in our training platform. And it just makes it tangible, real, super 3-dimensional. and allows you to go back and take action. This workshop is the same except 100 times better. So we've got workshop dates coming up September 26th and 27th of 2024, October 24th, 25th, and November 14th and 15th. And then also in October is our Top Dog event, which I'm really excited about because our guest
Awesome.
speaker is none other than, what's his name?
Will, and I'm gonna butcher his last name if I do it. So you're gonna have to help me out here. It's a good diet, or am I saying that right?
Will Guidera.
Gajera.
So the author, yeah, the author of the book Unreasonable Hospitality, and he is the sweetest person,
Oh
but also like a phenomenal leader, a top performer, and
man,
just a person that executes on the highest level with an amazing attention to detail and the biggest heart for customer service of I think just about anybody I've ever met. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
no, I
he's
completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. One of the things that I took away from, if you research back on SDR, there's an episode with him on it, and do you know what I took away from that? Like, I want my kids to talk about me like he talks about his dad, and he
oh
does it in the
my
book too.
gosh.
But like, he cherishes his dad, and yeah, he's a remarkable man, remarkable story, great book, great documentary on Netflix. Like, there's so many great things, and him to come to Top Dog is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's part two of the agreement that we have with him. The first is that we hired his company to do a workshop with all of our clients, which about 100 of our clients, I think, got to experience back in April. And then the second thing is for him to be a keynote speaker at our Top Dog event, which is like the Oscars for our clients, is the best way to kind of describe it. So if you haven't made your decision whether or not you're going to come to that thing, this is a really good time to make the decision. I would suggest that your decision should be that yes, you'll be coming, but there's going to be limited spaces. Like the library can hold a decent amount of people, but not everybody that's going to want to come. So the earlier you register, the better. If you're a client, it's part of being in the Chris Collins family. So take advantage of that thing, and it is going to be a memorable event. And I think we're super excited. I think we'll probably have a record number of parts managers there this year, just because we've been incorporating parts into our coaching so much. And it's rare that I have I have a master class out here. We have a master class out here that there's not several parts managers involved in that. And what we're finding, crazy enough, is that the results are faster and better when the parts department and the service department are working together. Stuff
Yeah.
we've talked
Yep.
about before. And one of the things I think that last episode was about kind of the new rules of running a parts department, and today's episode is about what's the outlook, what's the future outlook for parts manager position. On SDR a few weeks ago, we talked about how McDonald's had incorporated kiosk, and essentially the kiosk and whether or not you have a kiosk or whatever is not the real question. It's about the fact that automation is upon us, and there are things that are coming out every day that are going to challenge the workforce. And I think that maybe a better kind of description of what we're going to talk about today is not whether or not will parts managers you know become extinct. It's how do you stay relevant as a parts manager, right? Cliff, as you kind of thought about this topic, you said a bunch of things that I think if you share with the audience, they're gonna see how do you make yourself. We have irreplaceable service manager, but I think irreplaceable parts manager is the same conversation. So maybe just kind of open up and give us some of your thoughts on the outlook of the parts manager position, and then maybe one or two things that you would say makes it so that the parts manager, um, you know, can be a healthy and relevant part of the dealership workforce.
Yeah. Agree with everything that you've said up until that point. And this is going to be less, a 1 through 5 kind of thing, and more just a little bit of a conversation. But it the seed got planted from someone who asked me, could he eliminate his parts manager and combine them with the service manager, and would that position go away?
Okay,
And
so you had an owner, you had it, hold on, let's unpack it
yep,
though. You had an
yep,
owner of a car dealership say,
yes,
hey, I'm focusing on expenses. The variable side of the business is not what it used to be, and it doesn't look like it's going to be going forward or anything like that. So I need to run as lean and tight as possible. Is it possible that I can run without a dedicated parts manager? So this is an owner asking his coach, do I need a parts manager? And how did
yeah,
you
yeah,
respond?
yeah. That's heavy if you think about it. And can he combine two positions? But I think what happened in our business is we created, and we've stated it before, and again, I don't want to go backtrack on things we've stated before, but we've created these kind of silos, and we've created these kind of boundaries that, well, I don't go in that area because that's not what, I'm not manager over that, or that's not my area of expertise or whatever. And so kind of, making yourself irreplaceable is making sure there's an open line of communication and you're involved in it. Like being involved in the meetings that are taking place, whether they're managers meetings or whether they're uh, shift meetings or departmental meetings, like whatever those are part of, make yourself and make yourself available to be a part of those. Ask if you can be a part of those, but be involved in the communication, because most of the time as parts managers have pushed ourselves away. Some others have done that, and some we've done to ourselves, and I would make a strong argument that we did it to ourselves. But we pushed ourselves away into a corner. Now we're going to have to come back out of that corner and start getting involved in opening up the line of communication.
Yeah, so I've kind of got a couple of different ways. One is that for the longest time, one of the drivers behind many parts managers was to be invisible, to not be in the way of the GM, not be in the way of the owner, and they just kind of they sat in the back and just did a really really good job and ran a really healthy and efficient department and everything like that. But nobody knew. A lot of GMs and owners, if you ask them now, they don't know exactly the ins and outs of the parts department. And now we're at a point where if you are a parts manager, do not wait for an invitation nor permission to participate in leadership activities at your dealership. If you want to become
Yes.
irreplaceable, that's where it starts, is you got to be in the discussion. So do not
Yes.
wait. I'll say it again. Do not wait for permission nor an invitation to be a part of those executive and leadership meetings that are occurring in your dealerships about the future of the business. You want
Yeah.
to have a seat at that table.
If you're looking for permission, we're giving it to you now. You're invited. It's your
You
invitation
have
and your
my
permission.
permission. Cliff has
Yeah, you can
branded that Cliff Honeycutt,
state it out.
permission based.
Yeah, yeah. When you go in there, just tell the dealer, "Hey, Cliff said I could be a part of this conversation. He said it was completely okay."
And they
Um,
will be like, oh, okay, have a seat.
yeah. You mean the good-looking guy that's on YouTube? Um, the other piece of
Yes.
that, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. The other piece, kind of to piggyback onto that, is measuring your impact on the business. Like, are you contributing to the business in a manner that you aren't replaceable? And is that your knowledge? Is that your ability to have a sound crew? Is that your ability to provide the service? Like, whatever it is, measure your impact and use it, back it up by data. Like, get involved in the financials and dig in. If you need guidance on that, like, man, you could call us and sign up for coaching and get involved in that. But measuring the impact that you have on your business would be a great way that I would make sure that I'm invaluable and I'm irreplaceable.
That is right. Because what's the first thing that dealerships do when times get tough financially? What do they look at?
they're looking at cutting expenses immediately.
They're looking at cutting expenses, and human expenses are typically the biggest expense in a dealership. So you have to stay relevant or make yourself relevant if you're not already. So there was a little bit of a thing there. So kind of addressing that question that the owner asked, can someone be a parts and service director and then not have a direct parts manager or a direct service manager? And I've got kind of an answer, at least my belief on that is that depending on the size, I think that people can be effective and do both. But what I would say is there comes a point where a store is of such a size that the savings in payroll does not outpace the loss in having someone paying attention to detail. And
Mhm.
so you might save yourself several $1,000s in payroll, but you cost yourself $10,000 in profit because you don't have someone at someone at the ship and you're running into rocks. So that's kind of my official thought about parts and service directors versus having separate parts managers, service managers, and then maybe a fixed ops director or parts and service manager over them. But I'd also, again, kind of like cautioning the industry is that another thing I've noticed in times of downturn, that parts and service director or fixed ops director, they also are vulnerable in times of cutting expenses. So you've got to really, really make sure, whatever it is, no matter what position you have in the dealership, that you're proving your worth to the bottom line. And you have to get out of your comfort zone to make sure that people know it. Like, hey, my department is 40% net to gross, and it's not happening by accident. It's because this is what I'm doing to lead the team and to grow the business. Like, you want to have a little bit of there's probably a better word for it, but a brag book of sorts that show what your value is to the dealership.
Completely agree with all that. And I wrote down another piece to this is you have to be involved and evolve. And I think that that's kind of what we're saying. Like, you've got to be involved in the conversations of what we're doing to generate revenue and what we've contributed in that sense. And then you have to be involved in uh, the 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 outcome, the results, the build up, the planning. Like, be involved in the whole thing. I don't even know how more to communicate being involved in evolving in your role, but just coming out of the parts department and being a part of meetings, being a part of planning projects, you know, get involved with the sales managers and GMs, like, asked to be a part of the sales meetings. Do you know how much a salesman would appreciate a parts manager being inside their sales meeting? Like, just go be a
Sure.
part of it. But evolving in that role of we started out talking about leadership, but taking kind of the helm and holding up the banner, like, man, there's not a better way to make a really big impact uh, than evolving into a bigger role.
Yeah, so nothing would be more impressive to me if you're a parts manager and you have a really nice, healthy department, but you know how many new cars we sold last month, how many used cars we sold last month, how our service CSI was last month. If you care about all of that stuff, and I'm an owner, I'm like, okay, my parts guy knows all of that stuff. Um, I need him, right?
We have a group on the East Coast, and I don't have permission to say the name of them, so I'm not going to throw the name out. But we have
You don't have to. It's
group,
okay.
a group on the East Coast that I know of, every parts manager in that organization knows exactly what their CSI is.
Actually, is the group the Jackson Five,
Um, no, it's not.
Backstreet Boys,
No,
the Beatles?
Go Fish.
Okay, so that's all I had for thoughts about groups that it could be.
But think about that, like a parts manager knowing, and there's a couple of parts managers in this organization, and only because I haven't had a conversation with all of them, they know what's going on in the other departments without question, and they can tell me what's going on in those other departments. Like, they're involved in those conversations from the dealership level and from the leadership team level. They're not tucked away in the back, just sitting behind a desk.
Yeah, they're actively encouraged to participate, and it's good. We can't say the group's name, but I can say Clay, you're awesome.
Good stuff.
Little shout out
Um,
there.
yeah, that's so great. And you know, the last thing I think about is don't overcomplicate it. We try
Oh,
to
that's great.
we try to make this thing and try to change it up, and like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it, you know, don't overthink it. You know, we brought up a topic to think about, but really it's just making yourself irreplaceable. But don't overthink it. Like, it can be simple.
Yeah, so I think that's great. And then if you've listened to all these little things that we've talked about, and the answer to the questions, will the parts manager position uh, go away? I believe the answer is no, but the position could be eliminated in certain situations if the individual's not doing the things that we're talking about.
I can tell you with certainty that I don't think the position ultimately goes away. Um, and that could be another topic for another discussion for multiple reasons. But I would also tell you that in my experience and what I see more often than not is if that person is not involved in discussions and not contributing to the profitability of the organization, they often go away.
Yeah, there should be red flags and lights spinning and all that stuff going on. If you feel like you're in that position where you're on the outside, um, get on the inside. So I think
Yeah,
that that's
yeah,
hopefully that's a really good lesson for everybody, and just keeping yourself relevant. And there's a one of my favorite words that Clift used is the word evolve. And there's a world where we can evolve, and whatever we are today, if we're a great parts manager, run a great department or whatever, you just have to be willing to accept the possibility that what you are today might not be enough for you in 12 months or 24 months. So be willing to evolve and just keep getting better. Do not put your feet on your desk and say you won life.
it's a great word.
All right, well, I think we've put enough into them for today, don't you think, Cliff?
I think so.
All right.
Enough to
Well,
think about.
thank you all so much for tuning in. Great discussion, and let's keep having more of these discussions. That's how we stick around and do a better job than we did yesterday. So, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.